chair. So, class has begun. So, a lot of the stuff that I do, people ask me all the time, how did I hit that? And every person here who's ever fought has fought somebody where they're like, how in the hell did you just hit me? My shield was there, and you didn't really move, and it still landed on me, and I don't know how the hell I got there. And so this covers some of the stuff that I do, without people ask me how I do it. And maybe you guys can yield something out of it that might be useful for you. We'll see. I don't use a trigger on my swords. I use a lanyard because my grip changes. I rotate the sword in my hand. If you white knuckle the sword and swing it, you can't turn your hand or turn your arm and get some of those angles you want to hit. So Patrick went over a lot of this stuff yesterday in his class about triggering and shifting your grip, and everybody learns the old, just loose with the top two fingers, and then you make a fist and you pull those bottom fingers in to snap it in there. And that in itself is a fake. That's an elusive shot. That's what made His Grace Paul so amazing in the day when he figured out how to do that, because the shot's coming straight at them, and then all of a sudden he makes a fist and the thing snaps in half and it knocks people out. So, using that on every shot in some form or another will cut this amount of time it takes that sword to swing around, which again is technically a fake, because it takes a lot more time and distance for a sword to swing in this way because of the length of the arc, as opposed to breaking the arc in half. Obviously, on any shot you're throwing, you want to make sure your edge orientation is good, especially if you start throwing these kinds of things. You want to make sure you're hitting with this, and you're not doing this. So, to throw some of these things, you have to learn where the balance point of your sword is. Now, borrowing this from a video, some of this stuff, the verbiage I borrowed from a video on the internet. His Grace, I think it's Gareth of Anstiora actually talked about it. Where's the balance point of your sword? Anybody?
Depends on where the weight is itself.
Depends on how heavy your basket is.
Yeah.
Balance point's wherever you want it. You just have to learn. And how long is your sword?
How long you want?
Sword's as long as from your shoulder to the point. You just break it in half, or change where that point of rotation is, and that gives you the balance point to shift. And one of the ways you can tell, hold your sword upright, and the weight's right here. Turn your hand over. Now the weight's in here. It feels more comfortable. You can tell by hanging the sword where the balance point, and that's why when you see people in their high guard and they're shifting the sword around, you can feel where that balance point, you center it up, as Patrick talked about yesterday, and it makes it easier to throw a blow from there. Well, you can also use this in an offensive manner where you adjust where that balance point's at, and you can use that to get around defense. A common technique used by a lot of people, myself included, is when you go to throw a rap at somebody. Sure, you can do the old school big sweeping wrap, bring it around, pull it into yourself. Well, that rotation point, all you have to do is adjust that for where their defense is. And that allows you to get the shot around. And do you have to hit a wrap across the back? If the shot comes on the back edge and hits them on the side, it's still a wrap. It does the same thing. It just changes where you position it. So, shifting that around, do you do it on every shot? Not necessarily. Do you throw the one shot the same way every time? Depends. Sometimes you have to adapt to what your opponent's doing, because you might find, hey, this shot works really well on meter fighters. Oh God, I can't hit a guy with a round shield with it. I can't hit a teardrop with it because it's round at the top, or at a different point it's wankle. He's a Madu fighter. Oh God, well now what? That shot doesn't necessarily go in the same way. It goes better. Madu vary. So, in order to do some of this stuff, one of the things I notice a lot of fighters in the kingdom and in the world, everybody thinks in two-dimensional. I mean, most people here are familiar with the 1 through 6 drill on the belt. Well, when you're looking at an opponent, can I get a volunteer? Actually, yes, you, Jason, perfect. Get your shield too.
Oh.
Get your shield. This is a perfect
Wire frame.
That's right.
Hit him hard.
So, when you line up on your opponent, you're in your guard, and I look at you, most people, oh God, what's open? What do I see? Go ahead and face them in your stance. What do you guys see?
Head,
Top of his head.
leg, back.
Leg a little bit. Okay? Now I'll tell you what. Now what do you see? You see everything. So when you throw a blow at your opponent, you step over that way and face that way so they can see you. Now if, right now I can't see anything, but I know you're there, your body's obviously there. If I can't see him, I can't hit him. So sure, I can throw this flat snap, his head's there, but his sword's probably going to be there. If I throw an offside body and my hand is out here, there's the rotation, can't hit him. But if my hand, no closer to him, is here, they can get in there. So, try to think in 3 dimensions. There's a depth to people. You don't have to do the big wrap and come around here to hit him. That's just as good. And I'm out in front of him. I'm kind of far away from him. And it enables you to, again, it's a fake. You have them convinced you're throwing a flat snap, and then at the last second you turn your hand over, you let that balance point float. You can tell when you throw a wrap, you can tell when the sword wants to pull over. All you got to do is that. So how do you exploit these 3 dimensions? Well, you got to change your depth. And this is where you start playing, this is where the fakes really start to jump into there, because you start playing off of human nature, and you start playing off of what they naturally want to do. Both Graces talked about, you go into an automatic mode where you're pre-programmed and your natural instincts kick in to do certain things. Just case in point. You throw a shot at someone's face and they naturally do this. That's just how it works. You don't want to get hit in the face. So that's where these body fakes and these head fakes and changing the angle of your sword makes them think you're going to hit them in the face. And instead of hitting them in the face, you're hitting them on the back of the head. Or you are coming around this way and trying to exploit some angle, taking advantage of whatever shaped shield they got. Well, when you get to here, most people are trying to throw these big thunder wraps around everybody. So if I try to throw a leg wrap at you, I just want you to put your shield down to block it, okay? So, and I'm going to come in on you, all right? Not very hard to block, is it? I can't guarantee this is going to work all the time, but it's, you know how. But by changing my depth and changing the angle my sword goes, I didn't come into you. I went out. My hand got out, so now my basket hilt can see his leg. And right now, because I set my fulcrum point around the edge of that shield, it's still a wrap, but it doesn't have to be one of these. You can do that kind of thing. Now, I will admit, you do have to use that shot with any shot, generally with caution, because if you throw your arm way out here, there's a good chance they might hit you. So you just need to learn when to vary your shots. Okay, that ain't working. I'm gonna come out here, try to throw it wide. Especially on those leg shots, when someone's got a heater or anything with a single point, that little wide angle shot is a lot harder to block. Conversely, throwing a J hook underneath it, it's a similar kind of thing. It's a wrap, but now you're exploiting the bottom instead instead of the side. Because most of the time when people throw wraps, it's somewhere along the leg in the body, or it's in the head. There's scorpion wraps. Some people do this. Right over the top, hit the back of the head.
Jason's used to those.
Yeah. But what about that shoulder? Most people throw it to the shield side because that's the side their sword's on. Going on a high guard. So like if someone's going to throw a wrap on you, you bring your sword up and you block your shield, right? Well, I might hit him, I might not. But his natural reaction, especially since that's what he's being trained for, is to bring his sword up, either in front of his face, to the side of his face, or to the back. Well, what you need to start figuring out, and what you can learn on the fly, you throw it once and he blocks it, and he says, okay, his sword's in front of his head. Well, now I'm going to throw the shot a little further back. Okay, he blocked it. All right, cool. Now I'm going to throw it again, and it's a flat snap, and you go inside the defense and hit him in the face. Or, as you're throwing over the top of that shoulder, people tend to forget about this shoulder. So that's where you come here, over the top here. You go for that shoulder, or you go for the offside head behind his hand. Because you're trying to execute the angle, his sword's here, all this is blocked, but if you just shift the shot a little bit, you can come straight down here and you hit him. So, with all that stuff in mind, the fakes. Okay, fakes. Gunther's really good at fakes. Shree's really good at fakes. But really, what's a fake? It's just the person you're fighting is so convinced you're going to do something, and then you do something else. Classic example is a fake flat snap. Person raises their shield, and you hit them in the leg. That's probably the most basic fake there is. Well, you can do things if you use a thrusting tip. You see people line that thing up like this, and I'm going to stab you. I'm going to poke you in the face. And then before you know it, their shield's drifted up, and that leg is sitting there drooling, waiting to get popped. So use those moves. Yes, I'm going to thrust you. I'm so going to thrust you. Even give them a thrust. Convince them. Okay, yeah, I'm going to thrust your face. Drive the shield up. Take a little step and extend into it. Take a little step and extend to it. Then, take a step and don't extend your arm. That shield comes up and you're cocked and loaded and everything's ready to go and that leg is wide open. Just drop your hand, pow. Little steps. You don't need to do these big. Never mind the fact I kind of do them sometimes. But sometimes, that much of a step is all you need to clear the defense and hit them, because the angle is different. Just that little step. Now, sure, they can correct, but that's why when you watch the top tier fighters, it's a lot of... They change their grip, change their guard, change their stance, they move a little closer, they move a little further away, because they're trying to generate a new angle in which to throw at you. Well, they may step, or convince you that they're going to step a certain way, and all it was a setup to get you to stand in a certain spot so they can throw to hit you. You can try to use things like that. This is one of Gunther's awesome shots he's really good at. He legs you, and then he goes like that. Everybody, and then he stands up and he just flat snaps you. Or he goes offside body. I throw shots like that too. They're so concerned you're going to throw that huge wrap and hit them that everybody forfeits their defense and does this. Not everybody. Top tier fighters tend to not flinch at a lot of things. But that's because that's the big fake. Fakes don't work, as Patrick mentioned yesterday, fakes don't work on newer fighters because they don't know what they're looking for. They tend to not work on the upper end fighters much because they're not going to fall for it. They've seen it a million times. Mid-tier fighters are where those big fakes work. So that's why I personally like trying to do the little things to beat the top tier fighters. You know, because people, again, they flinch. Some people will flinch when you throw a shot to the face. If you take a step, you're lined up in a good position on them. They'll adjust their defense. Take another step, they'll adjust their defense. Well, if you're both within striking range and waiting for the right shot to land, if you do a couple steps and they turn and reset, sometimes all you do, if you just bend your knee and shift your shield out, they'll correct because it looks like you took a step. But you didn't move anything. Now the defense just opened a shot up for you. Sean of Artemisia uses this to great effect, where he'll have you in position and his hand is here, and he throws a shot or whatever, and then he takes a step and his hand never moved. It's like it's on a string. His body moves, they adjust, and then he just flat snaps you in the head, and it looks like it just was there, and nobody really knows how the hell it got there. And it's because when he moved, the defense changed angles, and it just opened their head up, and then he just fired it. It's a timing. You know, it's lots of practice, obviously. Hells, you got to practice these things. You can't just haphazardly throw them at somebody and hope they stick. You know, you got to really, really dig into it. And let's see. So, I wanted to get into a real in-depth stuff, but I realized that it's kind of the last class of the day. A lot of people strapped on armor and haven't fought. So I'm actually going to keep this part of it really, really short. I just kind of went over some of this stuff. I have some drills that I do that if people are interested in seeing the drills, I'll set that kind of stuff up. But I also want you guys to pair off and try some stuff. If you have questions or some suggestions that you want to check out, give them a try. Now is the time to do it. This isn't a tournament. You're not trying to win. You're trying to work on some different stuff. And that's it. That's the abbreviated version. I want to give everybody the opportunity to go dance. So, do I have any questions? Cool. You're in armor and you want to go do stuff.
Or does it? I want to see the drill. So I don't
Okay. All right.
Drills, everyone. I guess
Okay.
everybody's interested in your drill. On your special pal, or is it on just the regular pal?
Well, we've got drills on this pel, and then we'll go grab the special pel. So, anyone familiar with the 1 through 6 drill? As most of us are. Just to recap, 6 zones. Some people number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It doesn't matter what pattern in which you order them. But the drill is you throw a blow to number 1, and then you follow up with a second shot to number 1. And then you throw number 1 to number 2. 1, 3, 1, 4, so on and so forth until you fire 6, 6. The purpose of that drill is so you can throw 2 shots from one point to any other point on your target. So you can go offside leg to onside head, double offside leg, double offside head. The variations I do to help work on different angles is I'll do my 1 through 6 pass, and then I'll do first shots onside, second shot to rack. It's a back edge shot. So when you're throwing on the offside body, it's front edge, I recover, I readjust my grip, and now it's back edge. Front edge, back edge. Front edge, back edge. Then I do back edge, and I'll do the full progression all the way through on both of those to work all those shots. And if you're not hitting the right angle, you're hitting the shot like this, then you're like, okay, I'm not landing this. I need to adjust what I'm doing so I can now land this. Well, where does the angles and where does that thing? Because obviously the pel can't, there's not much there. Well, that's why I got this thing. This was made based off of my Knight Tino didn't have a pel at his house. He had a carport. This is built just like the support beam for his carport. And I use this to practice all sorts of angles and all sorts of weird drills. Some of them I just kind of make up on the fly. The whole purpose of this, first, unless you have a pel like Helgi's where it's got shoulders built into it, it's really hard to practice vertical cuts against something that's also vertical. You get a lot of glancing. Well, now, shoulders are on the knees, the leg. You got something horizontal in the head. So you know where you're So I also use it to play little games. I refer to it as the operation drill. You guys remember the board game Operation? You gotta go get the ham bone. Don't touch the sides because the nose lights up. So you can practice throwing a flat snap, and I'm gonna hit here. I don't want to hit this. I want to hit the inside. So you can learn how. Oh no, that doesn't do it. Oh, that doesn't do it. There. Nice and slow. It is not wrapped and padded because it's all about doing this slowly. Because if you could do it slowly, when you speed it up, it's a lot easier to do it than if you could do it fast and then try to slow it down. When you're trying to do it fast, you still may not be that accurate. So hit the inside here. Step. Throw the offside. Try to, okay, what position do I need to be in to try to hit it? And what it is just challenging myself to avoid anything that's in the way to get to what I'm trying to hit. I take advantage of these surfaces. People who do a lot of movement, do a lot of sword blocking to kind of cover their head when they throw. You can practice figure eights. Just hit that horizontal surface, and it's a strike, a draw through to a block, to a strike, to a draw through to a block, and you can just kind of mess around with this stuff. I take advantage of it to practice things like Milanese and offside body shots, because now I have a gutter to stick it into. So if you want to just practice a slot shot, you can just drop it right down the center. No, there we go. Now let me adjust bend my knees to drop into a lower shot. Stick it to the center. Okay, now let's see. For offside body, what do I want to do? How do I want to do it? Well, it'll be hard for everybody to see it. All this conceptual stuff. If I turn it slightly and I face it, I'll stand at this angle. The post is my target. This is the edge of a shield. How do I get an offside body in there? Well, I can step and try to lay it in there. I can lean and try to lay it in there. I can go high and try to lay it in there. Practice that back edge shot for those who are so inclined to throw that. Where does my hand have to be so I can throw that in there? It gives you something to try to go around. I use the top edge to work my angles for a flat snap, even though flat snaps aren't necessarily my bread and butter. Their mileage may vary. But that's effectively the top corner of a shield. How can I throw my shot, and how close can I get it? Because if you throw a shot and the person thinks they have it blocked, they may not react very much to it. Oh, I got that. So how low can I get this to here to strike it without hitting it, and nice and clean? I also do the 1 through 6 drill on this, using the horizontal surfaces or the inside. Try throwing wraps around it and hit the outside on the inside, because you may never know when you need to throw a wrap that does this and hit somebody. But I've done it. I've had to do it because their defense was so good. The only way I could get it was going way past their shield and letting it pop back around the inside. And let's see, it was Adam McAndrew I was fighting one time, and I hit him. He was leading because he leads shield foot forward. I gave him an inside thigh shot with a wrap. Because I couldn't hit the legs because he blocked the angles for everything else, but I was able to go way out and around it. And I'm using my hand as the fulcrum point, straight out like this. And I hit him here. Just an example. So something like this was pretty easy to make, but you can still challenge yourself. Some people, like for those of you in Starkhoffen, know Conrad's got that Pell with the sword and shield, so you could do similar drills doing that. You're just trying to swing around the shield. Figure out, since it is a game of inches, sometimes half inches, practice that. Okay, you don't need to do the big step to throw the wrap. How small of a movement do I need to do? I know anybody who's been to a Thursday practice with Helgi, one of the defense drills they do is you want to move the shield as little as possible right, Tamiki? You guys try to move the shield. What's the bare minimum you need to move it to block that shot? Well, this is the inverse of that. Is how little do I need to move to make that shot? Because again, I got that shut down. Ow! Oh, you dirty bastard. So, I've posted the instructions on how to do the bases that we have here for these, the interchangeable pels, and I'll put this stuff on the Facebook group. Most of you are on that Facebook group, the Collegium Caidis. If you're not, sign up to it. We throw a lot of fighting videos and stuff up there. The last drill that I've got will take me a minute to set it up because I wanted to be able to have space to do stuff here. You can use it for both offense and defense, and it's the string drill. And what it is you take a piece of string, you suspend it between 2 points. If you live in an apartment, most people have a little awning in the back, tie it between 2 posts, you hang a little bell on it. That's the top of a shield. Throw a shot over it, maybe put your pel behind it if you've got a pel, which is what I was going to end up doing here. I'll suspend the string and then throw a shot and figure out where your hand needs to be and where your arm needs to be so you clear the string and don't hit it. Well, obviously throwing a flat snap right over the top is pretty easy. Well, now you challenge yourself. How can I throw a leg wrap over that string and not hit it? How do I throw an offside leg over that string and not hit it? If you want to set the string lower, how do I throw a shot under it and not hit the string? And you can use it in a defensive manner where this drill came from, because again, Tino, we didn't have a whole lot of stuff in his house. If anybody's ever done boxing, you watch Rocky, he does this under the rope, right? We hang a bell on that, and you practice your advancement and keeping a low center of gravity by putting that rope over your shoulder and don't stand up. If you know you stand up and you don't want to, practice walking back and forth underneath it. Then practice using your sword and shield and shifting your guard around it. So the string's maybe coming over your shoulder. Take a step out, throw a shot over it. So you're clearing that angle. You know, how do I throw a crazy retique thing over that? Position your arm so that string is right here. You'd strike the thing behind it, and your arm is on the outside of it. Spent a lot of time doing. And so I'm going to get this set up. You guys are obviously, again, more than welcome to come kind of check this out once I get it prepped. If you want to monkey around on this drill, on this pel when we get done, you can do that. By all means, go get some fighting in and try to practice those little subtle things. If you have questions about, like, well, what kind of subtle thing can I try? Really, you are limited to your imagination as to the things to try. Sure. Here's a simple shot, or even more or less simple shot. You might want to pel it first, especially on Huggy's pel. But instead of throwing a wrap here, or throwing that big scorpion, why don't you throw a wrap like that, in front of them. You have the shield, and instead of stepping around them, the shot comes in front and hits over the top. It's still a wrap, it's just here. The mechanic is the same. Instead of going all the way over with your thumb, go vertical. And then, where does my hand need to be? How could I turn my hand to have that come up and sweep? They've turned their shield. They're like this. It hits them like this. It's just a matter of looking at what you can do. What can your wrists do? What can your arms do? If it feels uncomfortable, don't do it. Maybe there's another way you can. Step, over the hip, lift the elbow. Just play around with those angles and try to think outside of the straight ahead, smashing straight onside, offside, slot. Go straight ahead at them, but maybe go ahead like this, because now you're changing the center line of them and they're having to adjust that shield, and if they don't, then they just open something up. You know, walk off line to them, walk off line to them. Plant yourself on that center line when you want. get them convinced you're going to step, and then stop and they turn and they just expose their back to you. So.
You can adjust the height to follow the...
No, that's good. Because all we got to do is that. So obviously.
Okay. Did you say exactly what I thought you said? But I already shot before.
That's taller than my shoulder. So yeah, you could do things like. And you can just stand here, do slow work around it. Try not to make it ring. You can't cut down this way. I won't worry about moving another pel. You can put a pel in front of it and practice here, going over it, but then hitting down at an angle. What does that represent? Like when someone's on their knees and they bring their shield up really high, this is the top edge of the shield and the target's down here, or it could be a leg, the lower abdomen,
like this. Boom, boom, boom.
wrap, and then change your depth to it. Normally I hang it off the string, that way when you barely touch it, it goes in. But you can practice, okay, well how far away am I and how much weapon gets passed? How can I adjust that? Okay, cool. And just kind of work with it from there. Anyway, thank you for listening to me ramble.
Now you get ready to
Go.
throw his offside hand.
Those of you in armor, go hit people.
And that's where the power
Play some stuff out.
I can't do anything. It's all
Only 44 minutes or less.
everything's activated.